I had no idea that I was in a toxic relationship. And looking back, I didn't know what red flags I needed to take seriously and what green flags needed to be present for this relationship to actually work. That cost me a lot of time and unnecessary pain. When you're called crazy for long enough, you start to believe them, don't you? When you're constantly labeled as the problem, it's easier to just stay silent instead of arguing and having another fight. Plus, they say it with so much confidence. You start to think maybe there's some truth to it, right? So you read all the books on self-improvement, you watch all the videos, you try to self-reflect and take accountability. You always end up apologizing first. You learn how to communicate so hopefully you won't trigger them anymore because you just want this relationship to work. Here's my question for you. Do they? Do they want this relationship to work? Is that their goal? Are they interested in doing the work of self-reflection or healthy communication or taking accountability? Or do they view those things as a waste of time? Because after all, it's not them who needs to change, it's you. That's why this information is so important, because there's no amount of self-improvement that's going to fix their anger issues or inspire them to change, right? If we aren't careful, we can get stuck in these types of relationships where we know there's something wrong, we know we deserve better, but we just can't seem to leave. Or at least that's how I felt, because toxic relationships steal a lot of things from us. And one of those is our self-trust. We don't know what we're allowed to need without feeling selfish. We don't know what boundaries we're allowed to set without feeling like we're being difficult, right? We don't trust ourselves because when we finally speak up, when we talk about our feelings, we're immediately invalidated. We're labeled as difficult. We're labeled as too much, too sensitive. And so we just end up continuing to second-guess ourselves and overthink and constantly feel confused or anxious. That's what I want to talk about today. I want to help you understand those patterns just a little bit better, and I want to give you the compassion and grace that you might not be giving yourself. But I also want to hold you accountable. I want to remind you of what you deserve in a relationship, and I want you to be able to answer honestly, is this actually love, or could I be stuck in a trauma bond? And please remember two things. One, if I say something that resonates with you, please take that to a counselor that you trust and talk with them about it. And two, if you feel like you're in an abusive situation, the first step is not to learn how to communicate better, or even to set healthy boundaries or advocate for your needs. The first step is always to get out and get safe. All right, so let's answer the question, what is a trauma bond? A trauma bond is an intense, unhealthy attachment between two people who are caught in a dysfunctional relationship that is either toxic or abusive. Now, this type of bond typically happens when one partner is manipulative, controlling, or abusive, and the other partner feels unable to leave due to emotional dependency, fear of being alone or abandoned, or feeling like they have a sense of loyalty to that partner even if they are being mistreated. Now, that's different than what I initially thought a trauma bond was. I thought that was when you had a shared history of trauma together, like you both grew up in an abusive or neglectful home and you bonded together about that trauma. That might be part of it, but it's not the full picture. The full picture is that there's a cycle of intermittent abuse or mistreatment in your relationship followed by positive reinforcement. So you're being mistreated and hurt on one side of the cycle, but then that person switches, and they love bomb you and they give you attention and affection. They talk about how much they appreciate you, how devastated they would be if you ever left, and they only see a future with you, right? They might even acknowledge that they've mistreated you in the past, but then randomly the cycle starts over again, and they're belittling and demeaning you again. Now, on the surface, it might seem illogical to most people. Why would you stay in a relationship when you're clearly being mistreated? The answer is simple and complex. The truth is, we stay because the mistreatment or abuse is infrequent enough to keep us confused in the present and also hopeful for the future. And we're not here to victim blame in any capacity, but sometimes the reason we stay is because we simply don't know what real love is supposed to look and feel like. Maybe you grew up around chaos, and love was unpredictable then too. Maybe you grew up feeling like you had to earn love and affection. Maybe there was some violence in your childhood. Maybe it's normal for you to feel blamed and shamed and talked down to. Those words feel, unfortunately, familiar. You're used to people exploding in rage and then literally acting like nothing happened, and you should just act normal. You're used to being labeled as too much or not enough. You're used to never hearing the words, "I'm sorry, that was wrong." And instead you heard, "Why did you make me do that?" So where other people in that situation might think, "This is clearly toxic, I deserve better than this, I'm leaving," your subconscious says, "Maybe this isn't that bad. Maybe this is just the way love is. No relationship is perfect, right? And I love them. Plus, what if I leave and I'm wrong? The grass isn't greener, and now I'm just alone." But the truth is, you'll never feel more alone than in a toxic relationship where you aren't valued or prioritized. And this isn't love, it's survival. Your nervous system is actually finding safety within the unpredictability. That chaos, the roller coaster highs and lows, actually feels familiar, and our brains almost always choose familiar over different, even if different is healthy. So the fifth sign that you might be in a trauma bond is that it feels impossible to leave, but staying is killing you. And I don't know if this was the case for you, but for me, I felt addicted to my partner. The highs were so high, and we were on cloud nine, and the lows were terrible, but my brain was kind of trained to just wait for the highs again. And this is so important in hindsight. During those lows, where you have those terrible fights, or when they say and do terrible things to you, but then somehow you make up together, it's easy to mistake that for bonding, like you went through battle together, right? You guys have been through so much together, you feel this deep connection with this person. But that's not connection. It's chaos. It's not love. It's survival. Don't let them manipulate you into thinking that those fights are actually making you stronger together. They're not. You've been through so much together because you've endured their abuse. It's just another way that they manipulate and control people. We've been through so much together. Yeah, well, you didn't have to put me through that. They chose to be abusive and put this relationship through hell. That wasn't something that you went through together. It's something that was preventable and caused you a great amount of pain. They didn't go through the pain with you. They caused the pain. And the crazy thing about trauma bonds, at least in my experience, was the fact that I never wanted to hurt them, right? Even if they hurt me, I never wanted to hurt them. But abusive people will 100% use that against us. And what I realized was, I was trying to give them what I felt like I didn't get as a child. I always wanted to give them unconditional love and acceptance. I was trying to be the most consistent, most loving, most considerate person in their life. The only problem was they weren't a safe place for that kind of love. They would take it, use it up, and then spit it back out. I wanted to save them from their pain, right? I saw their anger and rage as areas where I could help them heal. I wanted to fix them with love. I wanted to be their savior because if I could save them, then they would love me forever, right? They would prioritize me. They would see me as valuable. The only problem is most people don't want to be saved, especially toxic people. They see your healthy habits as a threat. They aren't interested in healing because then that means that they're admitting that they're flawed in some way. So instead of admitting that they need to change, they simply will project their own shame onto you. You get the insults that they're actually subconsciously afraid are true about themselves. And I would get caught in this cycle where eventually I would get fed up and try to convince myself to leave, only to have them sense that they were losing me and switch back to their gentle, loving self. They would apologize and give me the connection and closeness that I had been craving. Or they would shame, spiral, and talk about what a terrible person they were and how I should just leave them, which interestingly enough activated my fear of abandonment and caused me to switch back into a caretaking role and shift my attention to reassuring and validating them instead of actually being assertive about the change that I needed to see in this relationship. And the cycle would just repeat itself.